Hello students, I am going to analyze a CAT 2021 Slot 1 reading comprehension passage. This passage is based on Utopia. Before we start analyzing the questions, let us get a quick snapshot of the passage. Here we go. If you look at the first paragraph of the passage, what it basically talks about, right? You should listen to my analysis once you are done with the reading of the passage, right? Not before that. Going further, if you look at the first paragraph, the most important points that come out of it, the author introduces the idea of utopia and then goes on to explain. If you look at these sentences, in most time for much of the population, given the plenty and security on offer, such restraints would not have seemed overly unreasonable. For modern readers, however, utopia appears to rely upon relentless transparency, the repression of variety, and the curtailment of privacy. So it seems utopia is not a very good idea. It's not all good for the modern people, for the modern readers and the modern society. That's what he's saying. And then if you look at the next sentence, utopia provides security, but at what price? This is very important for us because this brings to the fore a very important point that the author wants to introduce, and probably that lays down the foundation for the entire passage. It seems perilously dystopian. The author here asserts that utopian institutions may seem dystopian, which means that utopia might have the characteristics of dystopia in it. There may be an overlap, is what he's trying to say. And I'm sure you know the meanings of these words utopia and dystopia. Utopia is an imagined world in which everything is perfect and people are happy because of the way things are done, because of the way things are managed in the society, by the government, by the people. And dystopia is just the opposite of utopia. A society in which people lose themselves to a dictator. So it's sort of a dictatorial society. By and large, that's what dystopia is. Right? But what the author is saying, that even a utopian society or utopia may have the aspects of dystopia in it. And then in the second paragraph, he goes further to explain this. If you read the first sentence, you'll understand this. Such a conclusion might be fortified by examining selectively the tradition which follows more on these points. So what's that conclusion that can be fortified, or that might be fortified or strengthened according to the author? That the utopian institutions might be perilously dystopian. This conclusion can be fortified. How can it be fortified? By examining the tradition. And the tradition follows More. More was basically, to tell you the background, he was the person to have coined the term utopia and dystopia both, right? So, and then he explains the kind of society that can relate to what the author has already asserted here. Like utopian institutions can be dystopian also, right? So to explain this, he has brought forth the societies and which follow the tradition, which follow the Morse tradition, basically. That's what he has brought forth. And the whole second paragraph is about that. So basically, if you look at it this way, this is the main point that the author wants to establish and inquire in the passage, right? Like this is the moot point, this is the main point, right? Utopia can be dystopian. Let us examine, let us understand, and then to explain that, author puts forth this idea of tradition which follows more and explains that further. Having understood the purpose of the second paragraph, now look at the last few sentences. In fact, this one. Unity, order and homogeneity thus prevail at the cost of individuality and diversity. See, this is how utopia is compromised and has moved towards dystopia, it seems. Now, in the next paragraph, you can see the anticipated conclusion coming forth. Look at this. Given these considerations, it is not unreasonable to take as our starting point here the hypothesis that utopia and dystopia evidently share more in common than is often supposed. This was the idea that the author wanted to assert to start with, yes or no? And then this is how the passage winds up. I hope you have understood the structure of the passage. Now let's move on to analyzing the questions. Take a look at the question now. Which sequence of words below best captures the narrative of the passage? Basically, you're required to identify the structure of the narrative based on the sequence of these words. See, you have already understood that the passage introduces the idea of utopia to start with, which means options 2 and 4 can be quickly eliminated because here the first thought is curtailment of privacy and here it's relentless transparency. Doesn't start with utopia and therefore 2 and 4 are gone. Now we are left with 1 and 3. Two things are common here, utopia and security. Now we are left with dystopia and coercion versus homogeneity and intentional community. And it is not very difficult to identify that homogeneity and intentional community have been discussed in the passage and dystopia and coercion have not been discussed in the passage. Take a look at the second paragraph. The idea of homogeneity has been brought forth in the last line, right? And in the last paragraph, you can see that it talks about successful intentional communities, right? And therefore, the correct answer is 1. Let us analyze the next question now. All of the following arguments are made in the passage except that. Look at the pattern of the question. This means that there are 3 statements that are true and 1 that is false. Let's look at the first statement. As in the first option, in Moore's time, there was plenty and security, so people did not need restraints that could appear reasonable. Now this says people did not need restraints. This is clearly and evidently false, and you can quickly identify this. The moment you identify that this statement is false, you can say this is the correct option, because the other statements have to be true according to the pattern of the question. Yes? Let's verify whether this statement is true or false. Let's take a look at the relevant point mentioned in the relevant sentence mentioned in the first paragraph. In Moore's time, for much of the population, given the plenty and security on offer, such restraints would not have seemed overly unreasonable. As in, the restraints would have seemed reasonable, probably. That's what the author is saying. Now let us cross-check with the option. In Moore's time, there was plenty and security, so people did not need restraints. Did not need restraints, and they would have found it reasonable. These are two totally different ideas, and therefore one is evidently false and is the correct option therefore. Just to cross-check, let's see whether the options 2, 3 and 4 are true. Options 2, 3 and 4 have been clearly brought out in paragraph 2. Now let's take a look. Question 2, option 2. The tradition of European literature. Option 2. The tradition of utopian literature has often shown societies in which it would be nearly impossible for anyone to be sinful or criminal. Look at the second sentence. It would be almost impossible for man to be depraved or wicked. So there it is. From this statement you can make out that a second option is true. Let's take a look at the third option now. There have been thousands of communities where homogeneity and stability have been achieved through choice. The sentence given in option 3 can be figured out in the last paragraph. In fact, take a look. For we have only to acknowledge the existence of thousands of successful intentional communities in which a cooperative ethos predominates and where harmony without coercion is the rule to set aside such an assumption. See, so harmony without coercion, that's the point in this option, right? And therefore this is also true. And option 4 says, in early modern utopianism, the stability of utopian societies was seen to be achieved only with individuals surrendering their sense of self. Now, take a look at this sentence. Unity, order, and homogeneity thus prevail at the cost of individuality and diversity. So, yes, the self is compromised. It's very clear and evident here. Yes. And the time period is also the early modern utopianism, which is talked about in the option. And therefore, this option is also true. Correct option, therefore, is the first option. Let's analyze the next question. All of the following statements can be inferred from the passage except that, which means you are supposed to identify the statement that cannot be inferred from the passage. Okay, now let's read the first option. Utopian societies exist in a long tradition of literature dealing with imaginary people practicing imaginary customs in imaginary worlds. Let's verify from the passage whether this can be inferred or not. Let us now read the relevant portion of the second paragraph. Such a conclusion might be fortified by examining selectively the tradition which follows more on these points. Okay, so it talks about the tradition. Let's see what the tradition is. This often portrays societies where it would be almost impossible for man to be depraved or wicked. This is achieved both through institutions and modes which underpin the common life. The passions are regulated and inequalities of wealth and distinction are minimized. Needs, vanity and emulation are restrained, often by prizing equality and holding riches in contempt. What kind of society is being described? Wherein crimes would be negligible or not possible. So such a society can exist only in imagination. And this is further brought forth by the next sentence. The desire for public power is curbed. Marriage and sexual intercourse are often controlled. In Tommaso Campanella's The City of Sun, this is the literature in which such a utopian society exists. Let's check the option again now. Utopian societies exist in a long tradition of literature dealing with imaginary people. That's what we have been able to derive. Yes, and therefore option 1 can be inferred, therefore cannot be the correct answer. Let's read option 2 now. Utopian and dystopian societies are twins, the progeny of the same parents. This option can be deceptive, so we better be careful. Let's go back to the passage and find out whether this can be inferred or not. Let's read the relevant portion of the passage very carefully. The last paragraph. Given these considerations, it is not unreasonable to take as our starting point here the hypothesis that utopia and dystopia evidently share more in common than is often supposed. This sentence is very important for us. See, it says we can take as our starting point the hypothesis. So if it's the starting point, it means that further investigation is required. And in any case, hypothesis is not something that's been finally established. So yes, the further investigation is required. That's very important for us, right? And second, look at the next sentence. Indeed, they might be twins. They might be twins. As in, post-investigation, we may discover that they are twins, is what the author is explaining out here. Yes or no? So it cannot be surely established that they are twins. So such a generalization cannot be done based on what the author has said. Yes or no? And down the line, if you look at the passage, yet we should not mistake this argument for the assertion that all utopias are or tend to produce dystopias. From all this, we can say that utopian and dystopian societies are twins. This generalization cannot be done and therefore the statement given in the second option cannot be inferred. Look at option 3. Many conceptions of utopian societies emphasize the importance of social uniformity and cultural homogeneity. This we have already discussed. It's there in the second paragraph. You know this, and therefore this can be inferred. This easy to eliminate option because this can be inferred. Option 4. It is possible to see utopias as dystopias with a change in perspective because one person's utopia could be seen as another's dystopia. The most important part of this statement is this: with a change in perspective. So if the perspective changes, can utopia be seen as dystopia? Or in other words, can one person's utopia be seen as another's dystopia? See, if you remember the central idea of the passage, this can be derived from the main point of the passage, the central theme of the passage. Let's go back to the passage to figure it out. Especially this part: utopia provides security, but at what price? Which means there is a price to be paid for the security that utopia provides, right? And it says that it seems perilously dystopian in both its external and internal relations. So, what are the implications? Let's figure it out. In the context of the passage, deriving from the second paragraph and the way the passage concludes, we can say that the change in perspective that's being talked about. क्या change हो रहा है perspective? Like for one person, if utopia provides security, it could be a compromise of self for the other person, right? So see, for one person it's utopia, for the other person it's dystopia because he is compromising on his self identity, and therefore in this way we can see that the statement given in option 4 can be derived. So what are we finally left with? Which option cannot be inferred? It is the statement given in the second option that cannot be derived. All the other options can be inferred, and therefore the correct option is option 2. Next question: following from the passage, which of the following may be seen as a characteristic of a utopian society? You should carefully read the sentence to note the language, which tells you that the nature of the question is inferential, and then you can eliminate options 1, 2 and 4. Let's check these options one by one. The first one: a society where public power is earned through merit rather than through privilege. Let's figure it out from the passage. Let me read the relevant portion from the passage. The desire for public power is curbed. In the utopian system, right? The desire for public power is curbed, and therefore the point given in the first option cannot be inferred. It's very clear. Look at the second option now: a society without any laws to restrain one's individuality. First of all, you would remember that individuality is restrained in the utopian society. So this option in any case can be quickly eliminated. But just to confirm, let's go back to the passage. To read the relevant portion, this often portrays societies where it would be almost impossible for man to be depraved or wicked. This is achieved both through institutions and mores, which means laws are there in force. Yes or no? These institutions and mores basically control the people, right? They monitor the people, and that's the idea here, right? And therefore this option cannot be inferred. Just the opposite is given in the option. Look at it again: a society without any laws. This itself is false, clearly false. So 1 and 2 are eliminated. Let's look at the fourth one now: the regulation of homogeneity through promoting competitive heterogeneity. You would remember that nothing of this sort is mentioned in the passage, right? In fact, it is the homogeneity that is being retained, right? So it's very evident that this option is contradictory to what's given in the passage. Now we are left with only one option. So in the exam scenario, you can say that yes, I have got the correct option, which is 3. But just for the sake of clarity, let us figure it out from the passage. Institutional surveillance of every individual to ensure his or her security and welfare. What does institutional surveillance mean? Which means people are monitored. Let's figure it out whether this can be inferred or not. Going back to the relevant lines once again, this often portrays societies where it would be almost impossible for man to be depraved or wicked. Why? Because this is achieved both through institutions and modes. So institutions are there that monitor people and people can thus be under surveillance. This can be inferred. Option 3 is therefore the correct option.